We're learning now the last part of the Maimer Mimona Afar Yaakov from Shabbos Parshas Chukas Balak Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Yud Beis. We learned yesterday the difference between Hiluch and Dilug. Hiluch, unlike Amida, when a person's standing in one place, which doesn't mean that he's actually standing in one place, but it means that compared to Hiluch, he's not going in an unlimited fashion. His moving is one which is in connection and in conjunction with where he was earlier. Whereas Hiluch means to go completely out of limitation. And in the Avodah of a person, that's the difference between Tam V'Das. When a person goes based on his understanding, based on his own faculties of intellect and emotions, even though he goes with them very far and he goes with them to a great distance, nevertheless, it's still limited and therefore it's still within the realms of his intellect and emotion. Whereas Alicha means that he goes beyond his intellect and emotion fully, and that comes as a result of the neshama coming down into the body and realize the constraints and the limitations of the body, which causes it therefore to feel a yearning and a push to jump or to push itself totally out of its own limitations. Nevertheless, that still comes from the limited fashion, from the Tam V'das, from an understanding and a realization that I have to go out of my limitations. Dilug, on the other hand, similar to the difference between Alicha, where a person is walking, they lift their feet off the ground, but nevertheless it's always coming back down onto the ground. There's never both feet off the ground, whereas Dilug is jumping with both feet, jumping beyond, totally beyond any type of limitations. In a way that it's not even in conjunction, it's not even in connection whatsoever. Not only that my understanding caused me to go beyond it, but my essence caused me. The essence of the fact of the neshama causes it to go in a way of diluk. And we explain that this is the difference between, in the avodah of a person, in the way that it connects to the spheres, between Zer Anpin, which that's Amida, the small face, meaning the midas, the godly light, the way it comes down into the world in a limited fashion. Arich Anpin is Keser, which is above Ishtalshalos, above the chain of command of the world, of the way godliness comes down into the world. But nevertheless, it's called Arich Anpin, a big face. It's still a face, it's still connected because it's above the world, but yet still has some type of relation to the world. And then there's the level of Atik, which is completely removed from the world. That's the essence. And that's the idea of why we say that in Yetzias Mitzrayim it had to be in a way of Diluk. At the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, if it went even in a way of Seiviv Kol Almin, which means something that's above the world, beyond the world, but yet it's called Seiviv Kol Almin, it has a connection, it's being explained by the fact that it's above the world. Then coming into Mitzrayim, it would still be pulled into the limitations in some way. It's still connected to limitations, and those limitations push it beyond limitations. In order to go beyond limitations, in Yetzias Mitzrayim, to leave Mitzrayim, it has to be in a way of Dilug, Midaleg Alahanim. Which that's what it says by Yetzias Mitzrayim, that Hashem says, Nigla Aleya Melech Malchi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'chveidu V'atzmi Galam. The King of all kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, in His honor and in His very essence, revealed Himself upon them and redeemed them. And the Rebbe Rashab explains that B'chveidu V'atzma is the highest levels in Kedusha, to the extent to the level of Atzmus, which isn't even a level, but is the essence of Hashem. That's the full way of being able to leave a limitation, because otherwise I still have some type of limitation. Even if I'm going beyond, but in some sense, I still have something which is called Le'em Le'em Yemuth. There's still two sides. There still is an existence other than holiness. Whereas in the essence, there is no other existence, and that's the way to leave limitations. And it's the same thing that Rebbe explains in Bitachon. When we say Bitchu Ba'avaya Adei At, have faith and trust in Hashem, adei ad, until ad. Ad means until a certain point. What certain point? A point that's beyond. But there's two types of beyond. There's what we call ad v'ad bichlal and ad v'lo yad bichlal. Ad v'ad bichlal means it's beyond, but yet it still connects. It's beyond in a way that it's still connected. And like we said, the example yesterday of the person that understood the depths of Chassidus, and as a result, he came to a level of Mesiras Nefesh, of going beyond himself. But he knew that this echad, the oneness of Hashem, the realization that there's nothing but Hashem, that came to him as a result of his understanding of Chassidus, was 1 minute. It took him 1 minute. Meaning it still is, my mind necessitates that I have to go beyond it. But yet it only is still limited to my mind's necessitating. And therefore it's ad va'ad bichlal, it's still included. It's beyond, but yet it's still included. Then there's another level, which is what we call adei ad, which is ad v'lo yad bichlal, that the interruption, the hefsek, the way that it goes beyond, is a way that it's not connected whatsoever to the essence of the person, to the understanding of the person, to the realization of the person. And that's the ultimate bitachon, as we said earlier in the Maimer. Real trust in Hashem doesn't come from any understanding, not from an emotional level, not even from an intellectual level, but from the essence. This is who I am, this is what the reality is, not because I understand it, not because I feel it, because this is the way, azeh, you need to understand what Chassidim would say, this is the way it is, and there's no different way. This is the reality. And this is in fact the concept of Mesiras Nefesh, the concept that we talk about in Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, which is the concept of Mesiras Nefesh of the Frierdiker Rebbe and of the Chassidim whom the Frierdiker Rebbe educated in the way of the Mesiras Nefesh. And the lesson that we learn from it is the idea of this is what Hashem wants. This is Yiddishkeit. This is Torah. This is mitzvahs. It's not because I understand that I have to let my life be in danger, even if my life has to be in danger. It's not because I understand that I'm not supposed to take into consideration in my world what the whole world is saying. It's because this is the reality, this is the fact, there's the Eibishter, the essence of Hashem, the essence of godliness, this is the only truth. And the same thing in our generation, which our Avodah is to greet Mashiach. It's not about yes, galus, not galus. Yes, what the world says, not what the world says. This is the way it is. This is the reality, and this is who we are, and therefore we're fully connected to it to the extent that this is our entire lives. And this is also the meaning of Mimana Far Yaakov, Umisfar Esreva Yisrael. There's two parts to the pasuk. The second part of the pasuk, where it says Yisrael, which Yisrael is the letters of Li Roish. Roish is the head. A head includes within it also the Gulgoilas, the skull, which is above the brain, but yet it's a skull that's above the brain. It's surrounded, it's like Soviv Kolalmin. It's true that it's above the world, it's above intellect, but it's a level that realizes it's above intellect. And therefore, even though it's mispar, who can count it, but yet it implies that it's possible. The word mispar implies that there's a possibility of counting, and yet we don't count it, we're not able to count it. And that's also why it says Roiva, which means either a quarter or four, which refers to the four worlds of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, Asiyah, which means it's still within the realms of the worlds. So yes, it's in a way that it's above the world, it's mispar, it goes above the world, but yet that mispar, that number is something which is still connected, it's still related. And in the avodah of a person, it could be yes, it could be not. I decided yes. I could either do what I'm supposed to or not do what I'm supposed to, and even though it's hard for me, and even though intellectually it doesn't make sense, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Whereas, Mimana Afar Yaakov, that's when we come to the level of Yaakov. Yaakov is Yud Eikev, meaning it goes down into the heel. It's in the lowest level. And just like we spoke earlier about the neshama coming down into the body, that specifically when it's in the body, in the meitzar, in the constraints, in the price of limitations of the body, that's where it feels its essence, not intellect, not emotions, the essence of connection to Hashem. Where there's Yaakov, that's where there's Mesirus Nefesh. That's where there's Kabbalah Soil. That's where I'm doing it because this is the fact. It's not an understanding and it's not a feeling. This is the reality. And therefore over there it's Mimana. Not just it's something which can be counted and isn't counted. Mimana, only me, the level of me which is Hashem, the essence, the atmos of Hashem. And Mana in Zayar, it says also from the word Matana. He gives us a gift. It's coming from above because this is the essence of the Jew and this is the essence of Hashem and we're one. And that's why it's Afar. What's Afar? Not the Roiva. 4 parts, which is the world, the highest levels, but yet it's still within the realms of a world. Here it's Afar. Afar is earth, which earth is one cluster. It's a bunch of different grains of sand. But yet all those grains of sand together, they become one essence, one existence that doesn't separate whatsoever. That's Barcheinu Avinu Chulanu Ke'echad. Hashem blessed us when we're all like one. The idea of it is that's the concept of Mana, the concept of the essence of a Jew, that's one with the essence of Hashem, and that's the meaning of Min HaMeitzar. Karasi Yudke, Anani Vamerchav Yudke, that when a person's in this level of Meitzar, in constraints, where he feels tight, where he feels in a place where he's tightened, where he feels that this is where I have to get out of this existence. Not in a way that it shouldn't be this or it should be this, in a way where I have to reveal my essence, then I draw down the Yudke, the powers of the Neshama, of Chachma and Bina, which are in the essence of the Neshama, because Yud shows on Chachma, that's like the dot, Hey shows on Bina where it broadens. But there we get to Anani Ba Merchav Yudke, to the essence of Merchav. Merchav means where it's broad, where it's open, where it's the essence of Hashem, which is beyond any type of limitations. That's the real Merchav. It's broad and it's open. There is no limitations possible. That's the real Yitzias Mitzrayim. Just like when the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim in a way of dilug, in a way of jumping, where it's not a malach, not a shliach, not any other types of levels of godliness, but the very essence of Hashem. That's above everything, above the 4 worlds, above any levels of malachim, srafim, and shluchim. It's the essence of Hashem. And that's the Avaida which reaches the level which is beyond the world, the very essence of Hashem. And it's the same thing in the Gula Asidah. The coming of Mashiach, that we're heading towards the coming of Mashiach. That in order to get there, when Mashiach comes, the essence of Hashem will be revealed the way it's one with the essence of every Jew. In order to get there, there had to be first a level of Yisurim. There had to be suffering and pain and constraints, which the Nesiya Yisrael, the leaders of the Jewish people, especially the Nesiim, the Rabbeim of the last generations, the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe, they accepted and took upon themselves the Meitzar, the constraints, the suffering, in order that we should be able to get the revelation of Atzmos, in order that we should be able to reach a Gula that is not followed by any Gulas, because it's redemption, where it's fully redeemed, where it's fully revealed, where the essence of Hashem is revealed, which that's the Gula that's coming now, the Gula that's not followed by any Gulas. And this is the lesson, and this is the directive that we take now as we come from Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz, which continues on to the further days later in Tammuz, because it's still part of the Gula of Tammuz. That just as the Frierdiker Rebbe stood then with that power where it wasn't a question if I'm obligated or I'm not obligated, or if people tell me that according to the understanding of Torah, it's impossible, you're not allowed to do what you're doing. But the idea was the essence of a Jew and the essence of the Nasi Yisrael, with the suffering that came with it, from which we get now that power every single year more and more. And this year even more than the year before it, and even more than the year before that, etc., etc. That we get the power to stand strong, not just because we know that we have to stand strong, but because this is who we are and this is our essence, and through that the essence of Hashem is revealed. The essence of Hashem that gives us all the brachas with Bani Chayu Mezayin Reviche in a way that it's not possible any other way. And especially the full Geula Amitis Vashleima, the revelation of the essence of Hashem, so that the Geula comes in a way that it's not possible that there can be any Galus after it. Good Yom Tov.